Women in Aikido by Andrea Siegel. Andrea interviewed about a dozen women, and this is her chapter in which she interviewed me. And this is the introduction, starts on page 100. Diana Daffner was born in Stephentown, New York in 1946 and grew up on a farm. She graduated from Cornell University with a BA in English Literature and Psychology in 1968. She has worked as a massage therapist and instructor, a workshop leader and instructor in energy massage and awareness, as well as a microcomputer trainer. She is currently a project manager and technical writer in the human resources industry and a Tai Chi Chuan instructor. She lives on an island off the coast of Western Florida with her husband Richard. Her main Aikido teacher was Robert Nadeau. When I contacted Diana Daffner by phone to set up the interview, she had just come inside after a moonlit canoe ride among the mangrove trees. I expressed my admiration for her athleticism, and she was quick to pierce my illusions. I wasn't paddling. I was perfectly content to be a passenger. She added, "I am Queen Wimp. I have skinny little toothpick arms. If I could get a black belt, anyone can." As a not very athletic person myself, said Andrea, I found this encouraging. A few weeks later, Andrea writes that she sat in her little studio apartment in California and spoke with me long distance in Western Florida. I talked a little bit about my surroundings before we began. I'm sitting on a glider, an old-fashioned porch couch, and I'm looking through my screen at a canal, and the birds are chirping away. Actually, I don't really see much except greenery. When a boat goes by, I'll see a little bit of the mast. The weather's gorgeous, it's breezy. The bugs here put New York cockroaches to shame. Diana was introduced to Aikido through a week-long workshop Bob Nadeau gave at the Esalen Institute in 1971. At that time, she was on the massage staff there. The workshop was about energy awareness and meditation, not Aikido. She was living in Big Sur at that time in a 1946 Dodge pickup truck with a redwood camper, stained glass windows, and a big furry dog. The staples of her life are what she called the 3 M's: massage, music, and meditation. After the workshop, she moved up to Mountain View and studied with Bob full-time from December 1971 to April 1982. She said, "I didn't do Aikido as a hobby." In 1982, she went back east to be with her father as he was dying. While there, she met Richard Daffner, and in 1983, after her father's death, she moved to New York City to be with Richard. They married in 1985. She worked in the corporate world of New York for many years. Recently, she and Richard moved to Florida, where she teaches Tai Chi Chuan and other related workshops. This book, by the way, was published in 1993. So Andrea called and asked me, what was so compelling about that first workshop that you would just pick up and move from Big Sur to Mountain View? I responded, when I did the workshop, I discovered that Bob knew more than I did about energy. He seemed, through his body and his being, to not only be able to describe my energy space, but also to assist me in recognizing it better. I had profound meditation experiences during that week that were conscious and present, and I wanted more of that. I was not attracted to Bob for his personality, nor was I falling in love with him. I was drawn to the work he was doing and to his ability to teach what he seems to know and experience about energy. My only previous martial arts experience was that I'd signed up for judo class in college. I went for a few lessons, and then I had a car accident and injured my back. When I came back to class, They were rolling over a body in the middle of the mat. This is still something I don't like doing. I hadn't learned to roll at all yet. I wouldn't even attempt it. So I was kicked out of the judo class. I don't know why I tried judo in the first place. I started doing Aikido because that was part of how Nado taught about energy. I got a gi and started going to classes. Once again, I was confronted with having to roll forward on a mat. I am not a jock. I am not and never have been an athletic person. Rolling forward was a big thing for me. The old Mountain View dojo had tatami mats. These mats were hard. We had a couple of soft padded mats that we called granny mats. We would drag out these mats for new people. I rolled on a granny mat for a whole year. My nage, or partner, would get me into position, and I would say, "Let me take my own fall." I wouldn't let anyone throw me. I was terrified of being out of control, having someone push me before I was ready to go. That's where I started in Aikido. Andrea notes, from 1971 to 1982, Aikido, meditation, and her work in massage were Diana's world. Anything else she did, like having fun socially, played second fiddle. Aikido training took place every day. Bob's Aikido for me was about using Aikido to practice being in other spaces of awareness, to practice being. What interested me most about Aikido was how it was able to reflect on a physical dimension, my inner state of mind, my awareness. The Aikido gave me immediate feedback on my alignment with flow. That was Bob's gift, showing us how to use Aikido in this way. Most of the years of training were about the deep source of power that is available to us, that we have access to, a very deep spiritual sense of ourselves. If you saw me as I was saying this, you'd kind of see me going under, going down to a place of incredible power, a place that seems to scare a lot of people, but a place that's roomy and attractive. Andrea asked, coming up from that, what did you bring with you? What changed about your sense of self? I always had a very light, loving self. When I was a teenager, I experienced love as a truth. I experienced a powerful love that I had no idea what to do with. I knew that it was not meant for just another person. It was too big for that. I knew that someday I would get back to that love. During the years that I was doing Aikido, my light and loving self was not the major component, but it didn't disappear. It was still there. Now I'm more open and accepting of people who haven't gone into their own depth, but who are also light and loving. I'm more accepting of people than I was during my Aikido training. I had a definite prejudice then toward deep and dark, toward that kind of power, and against light and what I would have called airy-fairy. What I mean by the deep and dark power is that a real, tangible power manifests as human being. There's a power in each of us that we can access. That power can manifest gently. It doesn't necessarily manifest gruffly. I don't know what the right word would be. It may not be an outward power. It may manifest as an inward power. The power to receive is a power. To put out is a power. These are all different kinds of power, not gender-based, but yin-yang. Andrea asked, can you talk more about that power? My sense during the days of Aikido training was that power has its own intelligence. And given a vessel, a way to manifest, that power will handle all situations. I had a sense that this energy would simply come through and allow everything to live more in harmony. A lot of time in training was spent learning to trust that power that would come up and through our bodies and our hands and perform the action. It always amazed me how when I got really deep, when I let my energy go down to touch that, I also kind of came up, this sounds scary, as my partner as well, as something bigger than both of us, coming up and experiencing my partner's energy, from a place underneath them. To play with that power, that energy, was extraordinary to me. I was first introduced to the truth of it, to the power of my simply being relaxed, through Harvey, Catherine Tornbaum's husband. There's a chapter in this book on Catherine Tornbaum as well. We were doing a technique in which the wrist is bent, and it's held in such a way that the person really can only go down on their knees. Otherwise, they're going to be in severe pain. I had his wrist locked into this position, and he was being strong. We tended to be very strong with each other, to force our partners to connect with a space that would come from deeper and to be able to handle it. We chose that rather than being loose and easy all the time. So there was Harvey with his wrist locked, and there I was. Our instructions in the training were to hold firm with the hands, but to let everything else be very relaxed. Be relaxed through the knees and the feet. Be very comfortable in the rest of your body and not be concerned about your partner. Simply drop down into your own space. Suddenly, as I'm doing that, Harvey is bending down in front of me. I am not doing the technique, not forcing him down. I'm only in my own relaxation and my own place. I got so awed by this power of it that I started jumping up and down going, oh, this is so great, still keeping his wrists twisted at the same time. I forgot he was there. It was not so much fun for him. He was immobilized by my grip and looked like he wanted to kill me. It's one of those moments that you remember. Aikido is great for giving the tangible feedback, showing us that being relaxed and centered really is powerful. And then there's that sense of coming up behind someone or next to someone to do a technique. And it's simply by my opening up in all the pores of my body, my partner falls down. This was always astounding to me. And Andrea asked, ranking and belts weren't important for you? No. I've never been competitive and never needed marks. In Aikido, I never had any rank. Bob didn't test much in the early days. After I'd been training a long time, but before I got my black belt, I was determined to learn how to stemme. I believe the Japanese meaning of stemme is to give up your life or some kind of sacrifice. It's the forward fall that's done without touching the mat. The difficult part occurs when your entire body is off the ground, your feet are in the air, and someone else is holding on to your wrists. It's not a big deal for most people. That is, for most people who choose to do Aikido. For me, my first stemme was a real learning experience. We were in the Mountain View Dojo on one of those granny mats. My partner was kneeling on the mat, and I had a hold on his wrists. Suddenly, I was in the air, and this feeling of incredible exultation came over me. Wow! This is great. At the height of that experience, this happened quickly, I wasn't in the air that long. At the height of that experience, I heard another voice in my head saying, oh no, you don't like stemmies. And I thought, who is that? So doing a stemme taught me that there can be a yes and a no in me at the same time. It's my choice which voice I listen to. Andrea asked, does anything stand out about your training for your black belt test? Oh, when I was training for my black belt, after class one day, Bob called upon me to attack him. I don't know how long it lasted. When Bob was really on, he was so powerful that the power frightened me. I was afraid that I'd pull back from that power and get hurt. But I continued to get up from each fall and come back in and attack him. The tears were pouring down my face the entire time. I had never been so stretched to keep going with the energy beyond my fear as I was that afternoon. I was determined to do it. I knew that I was crying. Like when I did that first stemme, there were voices in me screaming that I didn't want to do it, that I had absolutely no interest in doing it. They were probably trying to stop me, but I was so determined that I kept doing it. I knew that other people were watching. I was only vaguely aware of them. I realized afterward that it looked like he had, someone said, wiped up the mat with me. It looked like he had been very mean, but he wasn't. He had shown me that I could keep coming in, that I could commit and stay with it, and that I didn't get hurt. I hit the mat hard, and I might have been sore, but I was not hurt. When I went up for my black belt test, I would not have been surprised if I had been asked to uke, to be the attacker instead of just the defender demonstrating Aikido techniques. It was not ever done, but among the teachers, I had a reputation as a wimp in terms of ukemi, the art of falling. The uke I chose for my black belt test, Jack Wada, had power that is very warm, calm, and embracing. It never threatened me. I was happy he was my uke because if I were asked to demonstrate some ukemi, he would have been the nage. I would be comfortable coming in on him. As it turned out, my test as nage was very good. No one asked me to do the falls. Afterward, it was mentioned that having me test as uke had been considered, but it would have been all right that day. It would have been fine. Andrea asked, so what did your black belt test mean to you? Bob has a calligraphy scroll by O-sensei, the founder of Aikido, that says, "Do the Aikido that cannot be seen with the human eye." That was the motto for my years of training. My goal, if there were a goal, was to experience Aikido from the place that O-sensei was coming from, not how he described it afterward as technique and form. When I asked Bob if I could go up for a black belt test, he told me yes, but that I had to realize that now, from that moment till the day of my test, I had to focus on doing the Aikido that could be seen with the human eye, which meant perfecting form. In San Francisco, the black belt candidates are examined by a board of high-ranking teachers who all have different philosophies. They're not looking to see if you're manifesting spirit, loving your uke, or tapping into universal power. They're looking to see if you're doing good Aikido. I had to develop the ability to practice the techniques as they're standardly done, and to do that consistently. Why was it important for me to have the black belt? I'm not sure, but I'm really glad I did. I needed the recognition of passing the test. It's not often that I have gone after trophies. I wanted to have a black belt. The black belt has also been useful as a degree, a credential. People are impressed with this concept of a black belt. Andrea said, did it change training afterward? I went back to using Aikido as a tool for awareness, and I had no interest in getting higher ranks. It was enough to take that test to prove, after all those years, to myself and to everyone, that I could do it just like anyone else. I really liked my test. I felt good afterward, and I was glad that I passed. I'm not sure what other meaning it had. I didn't go out to become a teacher. In Aikido, the years just went by. My memory of training is about two things. It's about the people that I trained with. We were dedicated to the process of being. We had similar interests and awareness, and we were able to bring that to training and share with each other, to be willing mirrors for each other, to be trainers for each other in ways that were astounding, fun, and wonderful, and I loved it. The other thing that kept me interested in Aikido was that moment of connection, that moment of connecting with my own source, of letting go to a larger force which was going to make things happen. We used to talk about getting out of the way and letting it do the technique, but we were never totally out of the way. Connecting with it does the technique. Through that place, I learned how deep a connection I can have with another human being, and how when I connect there, it just feels like we're one. The separation disappears. What was missing from the training or from that experience in all those years was my ability or interest in connecting with people in their entire humanity. Andrea asked, what's the difference between connecting with someone in the way you just described and in their entire humanity? Well, in the last 9 years since I've been away from that particular style of training, I've been more accepting of people, more understanding of what life is like off the mat. During the Aikido years, I was most interested in people when we were training or meditating. I was interested in exploring that underground power together. In the years since, I've been coming up above ground and saying, hey, gee, people live and work and play in life, not only train. It has to do with owning up to my own humanity and vulnerability. Andrea, what were you hoping to find in that time? I don't know if I hoped to find anything. I would check in with myself every 6 months and say, am I doing what I want to be doing? Am I living where I want to be living? Is this how I want to spend my days and my evenings? The answer was always yes. I never thought I would stay that long. When I first went to Mountain View, I thought it would be about 6 months. I would just kind of re-up, and it evolved into many years. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just training. You might say, training for what? I thought I was training for life, I guess. On the mat, uke represents energy coming toward me. Anything I have to deal with, job, boss, spouse, kids, lover, whatever. Now I might say, the other part of myself. On the mat, in a safe arena for playing out how I deal with energy in the world, I got to practice dealing with that energy. I practiced blending with my boss and blowing it, but it didn't matter because I was not at work. I was only on the mat. When I got off the mat, I talk about this with 9 years of being off the Aikido mat, I learned that there are other mats. In some ways, the Aikido mat was more fun than the world mat. Being out of flow didn't have the consequences that being out of flow in a relationship might have or in business. In Aikido, you get up and try again. You get another chance. Sometimes in life, that second chance doesn't come so easily. Andrea asked, when you left, did you sense that your Aikido time was over? I chose to spend time with my father, who was approaching his death. That involved my choosing to leave the training. Have you ever done a practice where you're sitting on a chair and someone's behind you pressing down on your shoulders and you have to stand up? Andrea said no. Well, someone is standing, usually on something, and they're putting pressure straight down on your shoulders. If you try and stand up against that pressure, it's impossible. But if you let yourself drop down into your belly and into your feet and into an elevator shaft beneath the floor and ride up with it, suddenly you can stand. And it's almost like you're bringing them up with you. Your power is so great. When Bob asked me why I was leaving, I said, it's like the sit-stand practice. There's a time when you know that's the time to stand. It felt like the right timing. I made a commitment to go east for a year. I thought I was coming back. It wasn't an act of separation from California. A year after I left, though, I was in Manhattan dealing with the corporate world. I discovered that I had to start all over as a white belt. The tools I had learned were valid, but it's a different kind of training. It gave me a lot of respect for other people and other paths. My arrogance had led me to believe that my path was by far the best thing going. Did the Aikido training prepare me? Absolutely. It gave me a context to experience this new mat in. In New York, I did a little bit of training in the Bond Street dojo, but it was different for me. I just wasn't drawn into it. I was doing other things and dealing with a new relationship with Richard. Of course, probably the reason I didn't go often is they spent a lot of the warm-up time doing forward rolls. Not my favorite. Andrea, what did you do for work? Well, I created a new career. I didn't want to do massage when I got to New York. I thought, hey, I'm in New York City. I lived in California from 1968 to 1982. I ought to drop into this unknown world of the executive and see what it's like. I wanted to see what this world was and how I could play in it. I got introduced to computers. I've worked for the last 8 years as a person who trains people how to use computers. I got back into teaching people about awareness a couple of years ago, because while the computer work was nice, I thought that my ability to help people grasp the joy that's inside themselves and their connection with Source is more valuable and more needed. I created 2 workshops called Metaphysical Moments and The Art of Happiness. Happiness is not an ethereal thing. It doesn't just waft your way, and you either have it or not, depending on how the wind is blowing. No, it's something that you have to take charge of in your life. You're proactive, able to respond to the world in a way that creates joy for you or makes you miserable. Sorrow and loss do occur within it. Happiness isn't necessarily a giddy ha-ha thing. It's this inner sense of who I am. My workshops provide body awareness and energy awareness as the main tools, and I teach them well. And now there's the moving meditation, this Tai Chi Cha. A few years ago when I first experienced it, I thought, these are really simple movements, but they're kind of neat. I did them for a while and then I stopped. And I got back into it and taught it to my husband. We started doing them together. I discovered through his experience that here was something for people who are not going to study Aikido or a deep meditation discipline. We used to ask the question years ago, how much body awareness do you need? How much is enough? We never quite knew. We knew that Aikido must not be the only way to tap into these deeper sources and powers. And suddenly I had this tool called Tai Chi Cha, joy through movement, that can teach people energy awareness, and it's easy. Andrea asked, when I see people in the parks moving harmoniously in slow motion, is that what I'm seeing? Yes, you're seeing Tai Chi, probably a variety of forms of it. Tai Chi Cha was created by a Western man who was teaching the traditional Tai Chi Chuan. His system is very easy to learn and easy to practice. It utilizes the basic yin-yang principles of Tai Chi and makes it available to people who might not otherwise dedicate themselves to studying the more complicated forms, which take a long time to learn. Instead of the traditional 108 sequential movements, Tai Chi Cha consists of only 20 slow movements, each done repetitively, and an alternation of movement with stillness. The moves are simple and they're extraordinary. I see people quickly slip into a universal state of mind, even at the first class. When I was doing Aikido, I thought that Tai Chi was very beautiful. I felt Tai Chi was quite similar to Aikido, but that Aikido was preferable because it gave me another person, a body to work against. So it wasn't a question of just flowing the energy out through my hand. It's flowing the energy out through my hand with somebody hanging on to it. I was always asking to be tested. In Tai Chi Cha, I have to trust my own sense of flow. No one is testing me, putting pressure on me. Now I think it's fine to do something that makes me feel absolutely wonderful, because I see that in normal daily life, in relationships and in marriage, I'm being tested all the time. It's not necessary to provide people with another chance to be tested. I provide them with a practice that helps them to alter their state of mind, to really be in themselves, and to feel their connection to the earth, or whatever it is they want to feel connected to. Then they can take that out to whatever mat they're working on. Andrea said, you said early on, I'm not a jock, but much of what you talk about that's meaningful for you involves a physical connection. I am a body awareness junkie. For example, now I stretch myself by doing what for me is the equivalent of a stemming. On the beach, there are chunks of concrete from a road and a foundation that got torn away by a storm. It feels a little like California because the surf comes up against rocks. Anyway, there's also an old concrete pier that's a little more than a foot wide and goes out about 75 feet into the Gulf. Some people have no problem walking back and forth on that pier. They go out and fish there. I walk out there and I get nervous. These thoughts come. I'm going to get blown over. I'm going to slip. So I decided to do Tai Chi Cha out there. There's nothing around me but water on all three sides. I go all the way out to the edge. I very slowly do some Tai Chi Cha. I keep relaxing and playing with the rush that comes from being out there. I guess it's physical, but I'm focusing on my awareness within my body. It is a paradox. I'm not into cardiovascular exercise. When I say I'm not a jock, I guess that's what I mean. I'm rarely motivated to work out. I know it sounds crazy since I trained in Aikido 7 times a week for 12 years. Andrea says, what draws you forward? I'm drawn to those moments of connection, to experiencing the all that we can be, the real human potential, and the mystery. I'm drawn to these experiences that allow that mystery to manifest in me and through me. I play with it through relationship right now. I choose in my relationship to take the extra step it might take to get beyond a first reaction, to get back to a place of oneness and wholeness with each other, where we can experience the mystery, experience the joy of our connection, and then deal with whatever the issues are. Everyone has their own pier to do Tai Chi out on the end of. Everyone has something that to somebody else is no big deal. Probably people walk out on that pier who, if I said, do a headstand and then stand on your hands, they'd be able to do it. Many people don't get nervous out there, but I do, so I play with it. like in Aikido, for some people being Nage and being the one who kind of directs the show is more challenging than being Uke. For others, it's the reverse. Andrea, did getting your black belt make you feel physically safe in the world? No, but I went through a period when people would say, does this mean you can take care of yourself if you're in trouble? I used to wonder. Then I was afraid that my wondering would draw me into a situation where I'd have to prove it. So I decided that I didn't need that kind of proof. It was not important to me to know whether anything I had learned on the mat was ever going to be useful to me in a physical situation. Thank you very much. I don't need that lesson. So I don't know. They say that the true success of a martial artist is never having to be in a fight. I have never been in a fight. Maybe I'm a successful martial artist. I didn't see my training as having anything to do with physical safety. I've never sensed the universe was a scary place. But the training and awareness make me less likely to be a victim in any situation. With Aikido training, I don't walk like a victim. I sense my surroundings and feel my feet on the ground. When I walk through the world, I know who I am. In that way, it's made the world safer. This is the sense of self that I hope to give to people through Tai Chi Cha. Andrea, sounds like Tai Chi Cha gives you the meat of it. Gives me the heart of it. People used to make fun of Bob's students a lot. We would spend extra time getting ready to do a technique. We were very comfortable, enjoyed that process of, okay, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to ask you to not attack me until I have a sense that I'm in this larger flow and that I'm ready. For me, Tai Chi Cha is a lot like just hanging out in that place. Going forward and asking for the attack is what the rest of life is about. Andrea said, what do you do with all you learned? I share it. I keep as often as possible returning to that place of connection. And whatever I'm doing, respect that very real part of me. It's the part of everyone that makes us alive. Our challenge on earth is to experience connection while we're in a state of separation. As human beings, we are always separate physically. As spirit, that separation isn't there, but we are human beings and we are here. What do I do with it besides enjoy it? It's there to be touched, dipped into, brought into all aspects of life. I take it into the world. What is a successful person? What do I want my world to look like? Right now, Richard and I have created a life near the beach as we set out to do. What does this mean to us? What will we create here? Andrea said, is there anything else that you want to say about the heart of the matter? I don't know if I've mellowed or if I see that life is longer than maybe I first thought it was. More moments could be spent focusing on the joy of the moment, on looking around and being part of the world. Certainly growth comes from having a partner who will call me on my weaknesses, test me, and mirror for me. Yet that can be balanced with the joy and aliveness of being alive. Andrea, what things do you do to support that sense of aliveness? My Tai Chi Cha practice, my relationship, my teaching, it's kind of inbred in me. That's what I got from all those years. As I'm talking to you, I'm sort of stretched out here on the glider. My feet are draped over another chair. It's gotten a little cooler, so they've been moving around looking for warmth. As I was talking, I could feel myself connecting with my feet. My choice in looking for words is not to go off into my head, but to find them in my feet. To trust that if I can drop down into my own center, if I can let go into my own heart, what I say will be appropriate and will really express what I mean. Today I speak often of love. There really isn't anything else. Love is how I now often label the energy, the chi, the ki. Body awareness is letting love through my body, experiencing it in my toes and my thighs, my heart, my fingertips, my breath, all my cells. Love with no object, not even a subject. Love with no thought of love, no thoughts at all, only that experience that each of us can only know for ourselves. It is this that I share with others.